This is Townsquare Sunday on 1420 WBSM, the place where people come together to talk about the good things happening in and around New Bedford.
Come together right now. Oh.
And now, the moderator of Townsquare Sunday, Jim Phillips.
Good morning and welcome. This is Townsquare Sunday. I'm Jim Phillips, and each Sunday morning at this time, we highlight nonprofit and community organizations and the work they're doing to make the South Coast a better place to live. My guest is Michelle Loranger, the Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Center of Bristol County. And the organization was founded in 2007, based in Fall River, but it serves children and families in all 20 communities in Bristol County. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here.
We last talked quite a while ago, I think. I went over to do a breakfast event that you did, a legislative breakfast.
That's right.
When I was working full-time in radio, and you guys are still going strong. That's a wonderful thing. For those who don't know, what is the Children's Advocacy Center?
Sure. So we're a center, as you mentioned, based in Fall River, but serving all of Bristol County, and here in our partners in New Bedford, we work really closely. We're both a place and a process for children who have been impacted by sexual abuse, physical abuse, children who have witnessed violence. And we're the coordinating entity on the front end for a coordinated investigation, but we also place a very high priority on the healing and treatment aspects of what children need when they are impacted by abuse and other traumatic events.
All right, so as an overview, obviously children who are abused or who may view violence, you work with those youngsters. Well, what other types of issues do you address?
So we're involved in the community in a number of different ways. What I just described is the services to children once something has already happened to them. But we've got a very robust education and outreach program, which entails doing a lot of training in the community to build mental health capacity. We have an initiative that we're undertaking to really focus on how children are impacted by the substance use disorders or opioid crisis that we're dealing with. And we are doing a lot of other community work aimed at building expertise and capacity and understanding the issue of trauma in children and making sure that the response to kids and families is the best it can be.
To those who say, well, how often is that kind of child abuse where they need counseling, frankly, any kind of child abuse, a child may need help. But this stuff doesn't really happen every day. In fact, your organization has helped more than 3,000 children and families since you opened your doors in 2007. That's an impressive, sad number, but
yes.
An impressive number.
Well, and I'll share with you that that's actually a somewhat outdated statistic. We're over the 5,000 mark now. Mm-hmm. We opened our doors, as you mentioned, in 2007, and we have seen a 164% increase in the number of cases we've served. Last year, in fiscal year 2017, we had 815 referrals. So I think it does happen every day. How and when it gets reported is based on how children in their bravery can share of the harm that they're suffering. But it is a very real issue. National statistics will tell you that 1 in 10 children will be the victim of child sexual abuse before the age of 18. It's a public health issue that we're working hard to respond to, but also to address prevention.
You have partners in this effort, a long list of partners, including the Bristol County District Attorney's Office. How often do you work with them, and is most of your work tied to criminal cases?
That's a fascinating question. We could do a whole show on the criminal justice process. We do work very, very closely with D.A. Quinn and his fantastic staff. The Children's Advocacy Center spends a lot of time working most closely with the Special Victims Unit that's led by Assistant District Attorney Sylvia Rudman through the support of D.A. Quinn. And we do work very, very closely. You'd be amazed at the small percentage of cases that are in fact, criminally prosecuted. The burden, the complexities of child sexual abuse and physical abuse, the lack of evidence in some cases because of the delays in coming forward about this, create a burden for the Commonwealth that lends to not a lot of cases going forward. And with that in mind, it is really a priority for the Children's Advocacy Center that when the criminal justice process can't be obtained, that the healing, the treatment, and the procedural and restorative justice pieces are really attended to.
Yeah, that can't stop, really.
Never.
No matter what happens with the criminal cases. So the organization started in 2007, and you were involved right from the start.
I was, or am, or have been.
Yeah, sure. But how did it start? What were the mechanics behind that?
Yeah, so an amazing, forward-thinking child trauma clinician by the name of Leslie Knowles, who just retired after many, many years of being a child trauma therapist, knew that the kids that she was seeing needed a better response system and was aware of this national best practice model based out of Huntsville, Alabama, these children's advocacy centers that came from a then district attorney, a guy by the name of Bud Kramer, who went to go prosecute a case of horrific child sexual abuse, and the case fell apart because the child was interviewed multiple times, never referred for mental health treatment, couldn't tolerate the criminal justice process, never referred for medical care. And Leslie Knowles knew that the child trauma victims that she was seeing needed that same national best practice response. So she pulled together a steering committee that worked for the better part of 7 years to establish the Bristol County Children's Advocacy Center. And I am the first executive director and have been there for the last 11 plus years, bringing this model to Bristol County.
And how are you funded? Let's get that question out.
Sure. Yeah. So we have a small portion. About half of our funding comes from state funding. I work very closely with our Bristol County legislative delegation, who have been incredibly supportive and helpful, and they really understand that the work that we're doing is public safety, public health work. So about half of our funding comes from the state. In the last 3 years, we have been successful with grants from the federal government for the Victims of Crime Act funding. And this is a pool of funding that is really aimed at helping crime victims. And then we are always doing some grant writing feverishly. And of course, we have fundraising events that we are dependent upon to help fill that public-private partnership that keeps us going each and every year.
You're listening to Townsquare Sunday. My guest is Michelle Loranger, Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Center of Bristol County, working in all 20 Bristol County communities to help children and their families in the event of child abuse or other horrific kinds of things that are frankly somewhat unpleasant to talk about, but
so important.
It's so important to deal with. The volume of cases, as you mentioned, has kept growing and growing and growing. Apparently, more people are reporting. That's a great thing.
It is a good thing.
More people are taking this a little more, understanding that you're affecting a child perhaps for life if you don't do something about this. And you may still affect them for life anyway, but clearly, if a youngster needs help with this, they have to get it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so much work that's being done on the impact of trauma to children. It is the basis for our work in our education and outreach program, a really kind of profound piece of research called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, or the ACEs study, and it tells us a lot about what can happen to children impacted by trauma. So we use that research to inform talking about this, as you mentioned, this uncomfortable subject, but we need to take the shame out of the issue and help people understand how important it is to know that we need to protect children.
Are you surprised at the number of cases that come across your desk? No, over 5,000. No, that's
Not
a big
at all.
number.
It is a very big number. I think that as you can't help listen to the news or open the newspaper and see about incidences, more so with adults coming forward in a delayed way, which we know is something that happens with this issue. I think going back to the Jerry Sandusky and the issues that are facing the church and clergy abuse, the Larry Nassar and the gymnastics, there are so many people that are coming forward it's helping people understand who have been impacted by this issue to know that they're not in this alone. So I'm never surprised at the number of cases that come forward. We just see it again and again and again in the news. And we've experienced this increase in the last 11 years at the Children's Advocacy Center.
Let's talk a moment, a bit more about education and your efforts in cyberbullying. Now, you've got people who go into schools and conduct programs on these issues.
That's correct.
How young? How young a grade?
So we're in the elementary schools and middle schools. Kids are getting cell phones younger and younger, and we feel it is so important to provide them with the education and the tools they need about how much good can be done with a cell phone and access to digital information seeking, but the harm that could be done too. Someone once used the analogy that we don't give a set of keys to children to drive when they become of age without giving them extensive training, classroom time, as well as test driving. We should not do the same with a cell phone or a tablet or a computer without teaching them where they could have some really harmful things happen to them based on their choice making and how to use it. So we're in the schools helping educate children with assemblies, both our own and bringing in nationally renowned speakers on the topic. And we also will talk to parents and provide education forums for them as well so that they can help be better at monitoring and understanding what their children are looking at.
It's been said of first responders, Michelle, that sometimes many of them have to get some help after confronting a situation that's upsetting or filled with violence or even worse, death. Mm-hmm. Do your people have to get some help sometime?
Yeah. What a wonderful question.
Caseworkers.
Yes,
yeah.
The staff at the Children's Advocacy Center who face hearing the unimaginable every single day. Yeah. We talk a lot about self-care and self-preservation. You have to, because you couldn't do this work without making sure that you're taking care of yourself. And of course, that goes better on some days and some weeks than it does on others.
Like in other professions?
That's right. That's right.
Sure.
We most recently just had a staff team day where we went off and we're on a ropes course together doing some team building and just having fun together. And we do have other activities that we try to make sure that we're cognizant of taking care of ourselves. Self-care is a huge piece of the work that we do at the CAC and in the industry, quite frankly.
What about are there any fundraisers coming up you want to share, talk about? Promote.
Yes, thank you. Oh, that's wonderful. Yes, we're so grateful for the private support that we get. We are in the middle of our annual campaign, and so folks can absolutely donate on our website. But our big annual gala is always the first Saturday in May. It's our Kentucky Derby Race Against Child Abuse Gala. Churchill Downs schedules that for us. The first Saturday in May. So be on the lookout, for that event, the first Saturday in May. And then, of course, we have our wing eating contest where your own Michael Rock and Gazelle come and moderate and get those. All of our partners in the work having lots of fun. That's on the last Thursday in March. The date escapes me off the top of my head. It's the March 20-something, whatever that last Thursday is in March. And that's a lot of fun. That's at White's of Westport. So that would be March 28th.
All right.
So those are the two that are coming. And of course, we have in January and February a series of our annual legislative breakfasts coming up as well. We've got Fall River scheduled. We're working on getting the New Bedford event scheduled to make sure that all of our friends and supporters here and from the delegation with Rep. Cabral and Senator Montigny, and then the newest representative that has just been elected.
Hendricks.
Yes, Chris Hendricks. Thank you. The name was escaping me. And Rep. Strauss, that they're all with us to hear about and get updates on the good work that they're doing. And then the last event that is happening right now is our colleagues and friends at the Dartmouth Police Station are doing No Shave November.
Right.
So if you want to support some of our friends, you can donate to a Dartmouth police officer who is having facial hair due to the generosity of friends and family and all of our support from Dartmouth PD.
All right.
Lots happening for the Children's Advocacy Center.
That's great. Where can people learn more about your organization? Where can they go? Is there a Facebook page? And I know there's a website.
That's right. Yes, our website is cacofbc.org. Stands for Children's Advocacy Center of Bristol County, so cacofbc.org. And, of course, we have our Facebook page, which is also Children's Advocacy Center of Bristol County.
My guest has been Michelle Laranger of the Children's Advocacy Center of Bristol County. Thanks for coming in, Michelle, and good luck with this very important work.
Thanks, Jim.
Really, it's you're saving lives, and hopefully you can make youngsters, help youngsters become more well-adjusted and move on with their lives.
We work really hard on building a resilient community, so thank you for your time and your support.
All right. Michelle Laranger, thank you very much. Townsquare Sunday will return in just a moment.